Because yes, the mace is hard rubber. Metatron will show it later, but it's still steel inside the rubber, and it actually dented my breastplate.
Holy moly.
This is a non-hardened breastplate for the peasant, of course.
Yeah.
So it was caved in a little bit from these mace strikes.
Can you imagine that? Imagine what a steel mace would have done. Or any metal for that matter. Dequitem. Behind the scenes, the brigand's response to Metatron YouTube. Let's go. He looks awesome and I need a crossbow like that. Let's see what he's gonna tell us.
Hi,
Hi.
I am Dequitem, an armored fighter in non-choreographed night fights. And today I want to do something special because Metatron reacted to my last video.
Yes, I did, sir. And also, I imagine it's the perspective, but because of the shot, it looks like this is like a giant crossbow, like as taller than him. I love the shot, though. This guy has got some good eye for aesthetics.
And now it's time for me to react on his video. But for all of you who are not interested in a reaction video, this is something more.
Yeah.
This is also and behind the scenes. And
I thought it was going to say this is also a threat and then take out the rondella he's got there.
want to talk about how I made this small film. So let's start the video from Metatron's channel. And of course, I'm looking forward to your reaction to my video. So let's start.
Just the other day I made he's gonna react in kit on the side, casually looking at the phone. Love it. Love it. Video reaction to the channel Dequitem, which is an awesome channel. Of course, I'm subscribed. And he just on the 20th of December, he released a new video called Peasants versus Knight. I'm probably cutting his head off because of where I place my camera, which, I mean, we don't want to start a war, do we? Disrespectful. How many cameras do we have? This is a 3 minutes 16 seconds video. I imagine my video. How many cameras do we have? Reaction would be like, what? 6 minutes? 8 minutes? I mean, well, I don't know. You know the video duration. I don't just yet, so I'm sure you'll let me know if I was wrong. His face. I'm so gonna zoom in. His face. Priceless. I absolutely love the fact the subtitles are medieval looking. Yeah. I agree with myself. I feel like I have to scream because of the wind.
All these conversations were made without any preparation before we started recording the video. So we don't talk about what the actors, so my friends, the fighters, have to say before. I'm one of the fighters, always. So it was very important for me to start an intro without me in the intro scenes, because I have to move the cameras.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I'm a little self-centered, I think. I'm a little... I'm an attention W-H-O-R-E. So I guess that's why I didn't think of that. When I make my videos, I'm always there, like all the time. It's a good idea. I can learn from this. So it's not just improvised, non-choreographed fights. It's also fully unscripted. So the things they say are fully improvised. Love that. Very authentic.
And when we start the fight, I will place the cameras around us and hope that they will get a good shot on the...
Hold on a minute. He's wearing a helmet. I should be wearing a helmet, right? I'm going to go get a helmet. Let's do it. Let's do it, number ones. I'm going to go get a helmet. Be right back. You know what I just realized, number ones? I did not think this through. How am I gonna hear? Well, we'll figure it out. Let's see what we can do. How about this? How about this, Dequitem? Huh? Were you expecting this? Huh? How about non-choreographed?
Fights. And
Yeah.
because we don't know how the fight will end, I can't be sure about it. It's try and error, and we always do a couple of videos, and the best scenes and the best fights will come in the final video. Now it's raining. Of course, it's always when I have to record videos in North Germany, it's raining and I will be wet.
Move to Italy, mate.
Ich hab das Pferd des Vogtes erwischt! Ich hab das Pferd des Vogtes
That's me.
Oh, that's him. So you are the crossbowman. I didn't even recognize that when I watched it. I didn't know which one you were.
Ich hab das Scheißpferd vom Hof!
Haha, that is him. It's kind of cool. One moment. At least when I talk to the man. So it's kind of cool that now I feel like I'm talking to a character from a movie. Because if he was wearing regular clothing in this instance, then I would feel like I'm talking to the actor. But because he's dressed exactly the same, this man is a genius. Because he's dressed exactly the same as his character crossbowman, I feel like I'm interacting with the character. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Oh well, there is a crossbowman in there, so I mean, this could be dangerous.
Not really.
Uh-oh, he dropped the helmet. Not really. I understand where he's coming from. I mean, at the end of the day, for a crossbow to penetrate plate, extremely difficult, as I say. I often push that. Yeah, I still kind of double down on that, Dequitem, mostly because, let's say that you are a professional crossbowman. Maybe you're not, like, trained in 2 weeks. Maybe you've been doing this for a while. I don't know that. But let's say that that's the case. And this knight is busy fighting the other guys in hand-to-hand combat. Imagine that the crossbowman has the time to really aim well. It could wound him, not through the plate, but maybe imagine like the side of the visor, or like it's mentioned in the sources, of course you know that. Still in one of the areas where there is mail, because you're busy fighting the other guys, I think the crossbowman could be a real problem, unless of course you can take care of the crossbowman as a knight immediately, in which case then you would be correct. It makes sense that he's panicking since a medieval knight in full plate is arriving and he's... Yeah. I love this. Oh, the crossbow's jammed.
And here I will show some behind the scenes with the jammed crossbow. This is a crossbow. It's a 600-pound crossbow. So it's impossible to...
Oh, yeah, without the mechanism.
Draw this. It's impossible.
Yeah, I believe it.
But of course I have the goat foot and I have to...
Yeah, it's still tough.
The helmet comes off again.
Yeah, it's still tough. Why isn't the helmet like secured under your chin? That would be my question, Dequitem. Does that helmet have the possibility to do that?
And pull it back. And now it's jammed.
Huh.
I can't
make
it inside the holding mechanism because I forgot also in the video to turn this
put it in
wheel.
position. Yeah.
And I have to...
You have to hold the trigger and then move, because if you don't hold the trigger, the notch doesn't move, right? Now that I remember that. Yeah, that's correct, because I handled a couple of crossbows before. It's been a few years. So he had to hold the trigger, move that, then begin the reloading. But it absolutely makes sense that he panicked because the knight was arriving. He forgot. I am sure 100% that happened historically. 100%. Let me take the helmet off, by the way. Let me take the helmet off, okay. I did it. It was fun, but let me take it off because I can't take myself seriously. So you also see... Interesting, fascinating behind the scenes. Love it.
Detach it here and place it
correctly,
at the right angle. Now it sits perfect. Now I can load the crossbow again.
Yeah.
And place it.
And place it, yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm able to fire. This was a bolt we had with us, but of course I didn't manage it to load it.
Would you have done it though? Would it be risky? Like, would you? I see that it has a little bit of a smooth point. And by the way, Dequitem, you don't have to make a reaction to a reaction to my reaction to your reaction. You don't have to do that. I'm asking all the question not to push you to make a react. You can answer in the comments if you will. Write it.
The plan was, at the beginning, I will load it and the knight will charge at me and
Oh, I see.
I will shoot in the ground because I'm too afraid or something like this.
Right.
But
So you weren't going to shoot the guy?
I forgot the mechanism.
Ah, cool. So I think it would be more probable that this guy would be wearing something between the helmet and his hair. And I'll show you some example. I mean, I'm not attacking it. Of course, you could have someone who's so poor that maybe they don't. But I do want to show you the type of headwear that they would be wearing in iconography.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
I will come back to this right now. Of course, this helmet can be used with a Google or a hat or a small piece of fabric.
Yeah, like a coif, like a fabric coif.
And padding here, but it's not important. You can have it for a little bit more protection against the cold.
Yeah.
And I wished I had it, but I forgot it. I made it myself, so it fits perfectly to my head.
Ah.
It's not important to use some padding under.
Fair enough. But I wonder if he's going to show us the kind of liner that he put inside, because I can see there is some kind of leather liner, because there are several types. And of course, if the liner is well made, you don't need, he's correct, absolutely. In iconography, however, you do find that a lot. Like you see helmets that have liners, you can tell, but then the guy that takes the helmet off, we actually found that a couple of times. I'll see if I can find them. And then you can see that when they remove the helmets, they still have a fabric coif underneath it. So I think both would be viable. Like the helmet with a liner directly on your hair, or the helmet with a liner on top of a fabric coif. And here are a few other examples in iconography of what we could call arming caps. So once again, both plausible.
Also, there is space that can move.
Right.
That's not always a good thing, but in this case, when someone is hit me here, there is air and space between the scales and my head.
Fascinating.
So it doesn't hurt. It still hurts.
For now. Another question, since you made it, and I imagine you also made this breastplate here, what material did you make it of? Is it, of course it's steel, but I wonder if it's mild steel, if you medium carbon, same for the breastplate in fact, normalized steel, I imagine. Let's check the knight against these peasants, I guess. I mean, they're recruited obviously, because that guy has got mail, so they're badly, like when I read peasants, I thought they were going to be like actual peasants in civilian clothing. No, this is an armed company. Yes.
I have to say something about this too.
Please.
Peasants are normally not serfs or bondsmen without money. Peasants are, in some cases, landowners. In some cases, the common man that owns something, that works hard. So sometimes a citizen, they can pay for armor.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And when you go to war or to kill a knight, you will put on some armor.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Don't risk your life without nothing. As a serf or bondsman for a peasant, he has to fight for you. So it makes absolutely sense that we have a breastplate, some mail, and a helmet, of course.
Yeah, and in the show they did do a degree of variability, which was another thing I appreciated. They don't like all look the exact same, because I imagine they might be people that have different degrees of wealth, and so maybe one could actually, the crossbowman actually got to buy the breastplate and that fancy helmet of his, and then perhaps there was one of them that only had the kettle hat, and makes sense. I mean, not everyone. Let's see what iconography is showing us.
We are not the highest level peasants. There are common soldiers and peasants with much better equipment in many, many sources.
Oh, look at the knight. Oh, he's out. Oh, he's out. He's out.
Yes, the knight hit me here, behind the jacket, inside my chest.
Oh, that was a precise shot. That's cool that he actually told us this. I appreciate it behind the scenes, because it looked to me like it hit him straight in the middle, in the stern.
So not the arm, but here in the muscles on the chest. This can be critical.
Yeah, sure.
This
Oh,
is an
look,
example of a
yeah.
polearm. And this beast hitting here
Yeah.
can kill you.
Absolutely. I mean, look at this. Imagine that, because it looked like a quick thrust, but still, if it did manage to go through completely here, so it didn't even have, it wasn't even stopped by the jacket part, then imagine if it got this much penetration. Yeah, your lung would be punctured. And even if you're like lucky and it didn't get you in the heart, didn't go through underneath the armpit, which is a direct route to your heart. But let's say that didn't happen. Still, it would puncture your lung. It could go like in between your ribs. It could cut through a rib, possibly. Also because, you know, bone, living bone is different to deal with than dead bone. They're very different materials.
Maybe not in the first seconds, but I was a dead man since then. Metatron.
Imagine also the shock of being hit like that. Even if he's correct, like sometimes adrenaline will keep you alive. You can see that in police camera, which I don't know how they are allowed on YouTube or whatever. I watch a lot of like police cam footage, and you can see sometimes people get hit like 7-8 times. Maybe there is drugs involved, it's possible, but whatever. Even if it's adrenaline, when you are in combat, whether it be modern or whether it be medieval, even classical antiquity, unless you hit someone and penetrate the brain, the heart, cut the throat, a lot of other targets which are lethal don't stop you immediately. That's why, believe it or not, if I had a maniac running at me, depending on the situation, particularly when we were talking about early firearms, I would rather have a polar weapon, a spear. Because if you stab a crazy man with a spear, the whole shaft and the weapon is going to block him. So he's going to stop coming at me. But if you even shoot him, sometimes he won't stop. He will keep coming at you. An arrow as well might not. If you hit him in the eye, it's, you know, there are some areas that will probably block it. But being hit like he would be out of action. I agree.
We'll mention it later. The polearm and mace of the knight were rubber weapon. This is a rubber weapon made by Dominus Gladius.
Looks good.
And you can see there is flexibility in it. This one is sharpened by me, but yeah, it will hurt, but it will not kill you.
Injure you, yeah.
Injure you badly.
Yeah.
But it looks better in some fight films. And of course, they are heavy. There is no moving in these heavy parts. But you can survive them.
That looks like a meat grinder, that side.
And that's the way how I make my videos when pole arms are involved.
I see.
Link to the pole arm is in the video description.
I'll probably have to buy it, honestly. That'd be nice. Like, not necessarily for content production. For content production would be nice. Daxfile is saying it's a critical shot. I agree, it's a critical shot. Best weapon of all time, the poleaxe. I agree, Alvin. I really like poleaxes. Very versatile.
Some of these strikes hurt a little bit, but
yeah, I believe it.
Knight still holds back a little.
I see. Oh, nice. They're going down. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Boom. Boom. That's at least 2 or 3 ribs cracked right there. Go knight. Go knight.
I actually hit the knight under the mail armor.
Oh, did you?
So with a sharp sword that has the possibility to go through the last layer of mail. A knight wears often 2 layers of mail in some critical areas, like in the armpits or in the neck and throat. So if you can catch with the blade under the eventail,
Yeah.
it is still possible to get stuck in the standard,
Yeah.
the mail around the neck.
Yeah, male standard. I've got a couple of videos. Yeah, that would hurt. I've got a couple of videos on the male standard. I don't know where I put my... I had to. I don't know where I put my male standard. I'll have to buy a new one. Maybe one of the square ones would be nice to have. Have you ever seen those in iconography? That will do it. That will do it. That will do it. The last hit looked really hard. He butchered all of them. Awesome. Expensive weapons, I guess. He had a poleaxe, he had a mace, looked like a flange mace.
It's not a must-have.
He butchered all of them. I had a great time.
It was so cold laying there on the
ground.
Yeah.
This was incredible, Dequitem. I loved it. I loved it. What was the temperature, Dequitem? Because the other day I shot a couple of videos in full plate. I don't know if you saw them because I was making content about it. And for you guys too. I don't know if you guys saw them because I know that the algorithm is terrible. So I made these videos outside and it was 0 degrees Celsius, so 32 Fahrenheit. And it was okay. It wasn't too bad. But this is Germany, right? So I imagine it probably was colder than that. But it's the wind, you know, even if he tells me, no, the temperature was the same, it's the wind, because there was no wind whatsoever. I think it's the wind that really makes it hard, because I was in armor outside, both with the Brigandine and full plate. Helmet, no helmet, 0 degrees was not a problem. But because there was no wind, because of the wind they had on that day, and even on this day when he's filming, it's the wind that makes it really tough, isn't it? So let's dissect it, shall we? Okay, so the first thing I would like to say once again, congratulations to Dequitem. That was awesome. I agree with myself. So I would like to begin by saying that I sympathize with the knight. He's absolutely right in being pissed for the crossbow peasant unaliving his horse. I mean,
killing a horse with a crossbow isn't that easy. Metatron will mention that a horse is a big target. But if you hit a horse in most areas, it will not kill the horse. Oh yeah, for sure, like how big it is. I think I did mention this on a video many years ago, a video that I made, which was more of a, rather than an educational video, was a thought-provoking video. And it was a video when I was saying why you shouldn't kill the horse of a knight. It was mostly, as I say, a provocative statement to just discuss the difficulties of taking down a horse. And I think one of the things I said, it was that in RPG terms, a horse would have a lot of HP. So yeah, they're not easy beasts to take down by any means. They can be taken down, clearly, because otherwise why would they even come up with the barding? But it's, as he says, yeah, I think if you hit a horse in the chest, or you hit a horse on the sides with a crossbow bolt, maybe it depends on the poundage. Well, he'll tell me that. I think he's more experienced with crossbows. And I wonder if a horse would survive a longbow arrow to the side. What do you guys think? Penetration wise, I'm saying. But in general, yeah, if you gotta hit it in the head, you gotta hit it in the throat. Maybe at the end of the day, if you didn't hit the eye or a perfect shot to the side so that you stop the heart. Oh yeah, like penetration. It's very hard to kill. And even if you hit the heart, the horse can run another 100 yards or even more. Fascinating. No, it's not exactly what you were saying, guys. Like, yeah, you hit the horse, it's still gonna come at you, and then it's gonna die on you. Good luck getting up. Raining, now it's snowing. Of course, these peasants have got a certain degree of armor, and the weapons that they're using are actually pretty good. I mean, apart from the one that is kind of looks like the man catcher. I couldn't remember the term. Trying to pin someone. I mean, I'm not sure about that one when it comes to effectiveness against a full-plated armor. Knight, but whatever, it's fine. The weapon he mentioned is a man catcher, and indeed it will not kill a knight. Of course, you can't kill a knight when you grab his neck, but it was the most important weapon to win this fight. That's a good point. So he's saying pretty much you would use it to pin it. Be nice to see it. I would like to see you make it work. I know that they were used historically. Don't they have like a ratio for it in the sources? I'm sure you'll tell me about that, but I think it was like, what, 1 man catcher every 5?
every 10. I'm terrible at remembering these exact numbers. I had the same problem when I was trying to remember how many, the ratio of gunners in and archers in feudal Japanese armies of the 15th century, which I still think is 1 unit of gunner per every 4 of archers, but I cannot remember where I read it, and therefore I can't double check it. I'll find it.
Of course, peasant can also have a lucky shot, like I nearly did with the sword.
Yeah.
But in this case, the best option to kill the knight is to pin him and stab him from multiple angles.
For sure.
In this way, the man catcher who can catch the neck of the knight is the best option to kill this knight.
It's fine. I mean, they use what they have. That's okay. Fair point. Maybe if I was that farmer and I had, as we said, a dagger or a short sword or anything
he
else,
also
really
had the
would have
dagger.
tried to use. So regardless of that, they are kitted. So these are not that easy to take out. And of course, numerical superiority is an advantage. But we have to take... I pronounce it weird. Is... to consideration that probably maybe they're not that experienced, that these are not veteran men at arms perhaps, and so I imagine they are somewhere in enemy territory. And then yeah, this guy with the crossbow managed, he does have a breastplate, so as I say, these are kitted. Now this guy on the left appears to be wearing no armor whatsoever, so if I were the knight, probably I would try and take him out first, because that would be the easy.
He used gauntlets and helmet later.
Oh, I see. At the end of the day, of all of these, they do have protection for the head, but if they can't even afford protection for the body, while you're wearing full plate armor and everything is protected by plate, then honestly, the only two that would be really kind of difficult to take out would be the guy with the mail, and mostly maybe this guy with helmet and breastplate.
Taking out someone in mail armor isn't hard with a polearm. So if I thrust into the mail, there's nearly no resistance against the polearm. Knightly mail and often double-layered mail is a different story.
Interesting point. There is a passage when it comes to from ancient Rome. I'll see if I can find the passage and put it on the screen, maybe during editing afterwards. But there is this passage that mentions specifically how a mounted spearman, so a cavalryman, and I think it's some kind of equites, you know, the equus, he's trying to spear a guy wearing mail, and the guy is on the floor, is on the ground, and the soldier wielding the spear thrusts him multiple times and does not penetrate. So, and this is in ancient Rome. Now, given, is it because you say that it's easy with, so imagine that we're talking about a riveted mail, and you say you can go through it with a poleaxe. Is it because the poleaxe is particularly thin and sharp, and therefore it's like optimized? Because I've never tried to penetrate mail with a poleaxe, so if you have done that, it would be interesting to see why that works better than a classical spear against, once again, a classical period mail, which would be less sophisticated than something that you would have in the Middle Ages. Usually Roman mail, for what I remember, it's like half solid, half riveted, so it's still pretty strong. And I can't think of a single example of butted mail in Rome. There are historical examples of butted mail in Japan. Both existed, riveted and butted. If you're imagining this is a fully riveted or maybe half and half, is it easy to penetrate with a poleaxe? You say it's a thin spear. Maybe that's why. It's because it's very thin. I wonder how much penetration you would get. Would you get enough penetration to take him out? It's an interesting question. This guy would be a little harder, although of course he can afford a breastplate but doesn't have any mail underneath. Is a little strange from a historical standpoint, but not impossible. Sometimes we do see it, but it's very, very, very rare. And other times, even though we do see a breastplate on top of what appears to be some sort of fabric, like a coat, it's also important to underline that sometimes they have mail underneath that. So even if you see breastplate on top of fabric, it could be a situation where they are wearing mail. It's just that it's underneath the fabric component. But still, mail, if this is, clearly this is in the 15th century, I suppose, so these men are actually not sufficiently armed for a battlefield. Now, given they are not on a battlefield, so that's fine.
So I have to say something about wearing mail here. First of all, I'm a peasant who wears a padded jacket.
Yeah.
So normally you don't see that I'm wearing a breastplate underneath.
Right.
Normally this is closed, so you can't see it. Also, I was someone who ambushes a knight in
Yeah.
the forest to shoot him with a crossbow. If you try to shoot someone with a crossbow without getting noticed, you will be cried. So I detached all my male parts.
Oh, I
because
see. So it was an assassination attempt. That makes sense. So it has a reason as to why that's happening.
The male is a little bit noisy and
True.
didn't wear this
The skirt.
big male skirt that will protect
That looks awesome, by the way.
my lower body. Well, there are few examples where peasants didn't wear
Yes.
mail. And if I'm going to ambush a knight in the forest, I would definitely not wear mail.
Makes sense,
Men-at-arms,
yeah.
billmen, archers, crossbowmen should be wearing at least a degree, maybe a coat of plates, a jack of plates on top of the mail. Maybe they should be wearing brigandine. As we saw, a breastplate is absolutely fine, even if you don't have any leg armor. But anyways, they do have a certain degree. As you see, this guy has got his arms protected. The weapons are excellent. He has a spear. He has some kind of pole weapon as well. And so when it comes to the weapons department, they're actually well kitted. The only thing that gives them a massive...
I double down on that.
disadvantage, of course, is the degree of protection, because in reality they have to go for the gaps in this man's armor, and he doesn't have that many. And even when it does have gaps, you still have to deal with mail. So unless you manage to get like a really well placed thrust, it's not going to go through that either. Even if you hit him with the spear, like a few times this guy did manage to hit him with the spear, but I imagine that what that represents is either it was deflected by plate, or the energy that he managed to create wasn't enough to perforate the male section.
There's another thing. When you're full with adrenaline to kill someone, it's hard to notice your injuries. So even if he passed the plate armor and penetrated 1 or 2 layers of mail, it's still debatable how much force and how deep he's penetrated the flesh.
That's a good point also, because you have to go through the mail, which slows it down, and it literally puts a physical barrier in between the points. So it's possible that, of course, if there was no mail, maybe you would have had this much penetration, but because there is mail, even if you go through it, break a couple of links, the penetration is reduced. And so, as he says, he basically is talking about the adrenaline thing that I was mentioning earlier on. V5VV says, I never understood the advantage of a scale helmet, as it seems like there will be no protection from blunt force trauma, which to the skull is frequently fatal. I imagine if he has a good liner underneath it, then that would help with that. What advantage would it have? I guess it's a personal choice. I mean, scale was used even in the period of plate. If you kind of want to show you that, because it's an interesting point, if we open manuscripts and miniatures, because it's an interesting topic, and we go into tags, we're going to use this a bit today, but if we go to, ooh, didn't mean to do that, gosh, control F, right? Yeah, scale. We see even barding, look at that, kappa scale. Let's see. Yeah, look at this, scale pawns. Look, that's a medieval knight, but he's choosing scale instead of actual lames of plate. In this case, I think, and then this is, we should understand it as mail. So it's got mail underneath, scale, gosh, what is this called in English? Fold. He has a scale fold, because imagine it's less, it's more, it's because of the degree of articulation that it gives, would be my opinion. Let's see what else we've got. If we can see some nice, is this scale? I think this is male. Maybe this guy is wearing some scale. You think this is supposed to be scaled, a scale standard perhaps, and a scale skirt? I'm not sure if this is, we should understand it as male though. Sometimes it's not the easiest to tell them apart. See if we can find more scale over here. Do we have, let's see, we need more. Yeah, look. That's a lot of scale right there. The scale is a thing.
for skirts, for neck protection. The helmet is absolutely coherent with iconography. Probably like a little, yeah, look at this guy in a full scale shirt and even scale legs. That's fascinating, isn't it? To see scale armor used like that. Very cool. All right, let's go. Yes, you have at least one protection for legs and arms, yeah. Well, sometimes they don't protect the legs, some men at arms. Particularly if they are like using spears or pikes later on. Yeah, if stream in the morning to wake up with good historical content, absolutely. All right, let's go.
So maybe there's only a small injury. Or maybe there's a big injury and the knight didn't notice it in that moment.
Makes sense. Yep. I really liked the part where they say, "Oh, to get the dagger, finish him with the dagger." Try to, you know, because that's exactly what you should try to do. At one point, one of the guys out of desperation tries to swing his sword against the knight in plate, and that, of course, does nothing. It's not that you can't use a sword.
He will go further.
Sword against a full plate knight. It's just that it's really, the odds are with him, as we could see. Once again, this is non-choreographed, so I actually love that, because there are a lot of the areas in this man's body that even if you hit him, it's not going to do anything, because as you can see, this is supposed to be like high quality plate, probably hardened steel. Yeah, he'll feel it. He'll feel the impact, but it won't hurt him.
Killing a knight is against the odds if you are not in fully armor as well.
Yeah.
But killing a knight with a sword, this is not a sword, this is a Kriegsmesser, but it's nearly the same. Isn't a bad idea. This weapon is an excellent choice for killing knights, and all knights would agree.
I think he's going to say that, yeah, by the way he's holding it, of course, he's talking about half-swording. Makes sense.
Of course,
and it is
they
pretty.
used swords to kill other knights. Because this is nothing more than a giant dagger. And also, Metatron said that a dagger is a great idea. So if you are in a further distance, out of reach of a mace, I wouldn't grab the dagger in first place. And I had a dagger here.
Yeah, I think the dagger, it's a good point. I think the dagger is like what you use if you are subduing a knight, in the sense that he's on the ground. Maybe you got him pinned. Maybe you hurt him, or you wrestled and now you're on top of him. And then you take the dagger for the precise shots. But yeah, he's right. I mean, you can use absolutely a sword to half sword.
I would grab a sword, and I had a sword on my side.
Yeah.
And would try to stay out of reach and hit these gaps with enough force. To hit these gaps, knights who wear plate and could make the risk to go inside and fight in close combat, of course, used half swording.
Yeah.
In this way, they were able to be a little bit more precise when it comes.
Yeah, precision, and I think even more power. I think more power because using both. I haven't like checked it or tested it scientifically, but I do think you could generate more power with half swording. What do you think? Let me make sure I have the this on. Okay. Half swording, the Kriegsmesser makes it very much like a poleaxe, pretty much. Yeah. The force is strong with this one.
Comes to hit someone.
Oh, look at that.
Have two hands on the blade, so it's nearly like a two-handed heavy dagger.
Yeah.
But if you want to stay out of reach, you try to hit with as much force as you can accelerate.
Sure.
In these gaps. And I was able to hit under his eventail and hit the last layer of the standard. So that's why he struggled a little bit and went a little bit back when he was hit by my blade.
And so that's why this is such a difficult fight for these peasants. My gosh, the mace. Yeah, you see, like he's trying here, he's desperate. Probably should have tried to half sword at this point.
With two hands on the blade, I'm free for his weapon to strike me in the side. So I have to use my distance.
But the problem is that even if you do that, let's say that you do manage to stab the knight in one of those areas that he only has mail, and you were very precise, you get a good hit, still, he can still attack you back. So yeah, you stabbed him somewhere, which is not going to be vital immediately, unless you manage to get him in the throat or in the eyes, but that's extremely difficult. So you may be able to wound the knight, but then he's going to hit you with a mace on the temple and you're out of it. Or even if he hits you in the ribs and he cracks a rib, you're out of combat. So in reality, the knight...
Man, I'm agreeing with myself a lot and with him.
And here, like you see, the spearman did manage to do a good thrust, but I can see it's just underneath, and so it's hitting the plate. And most likely, that's not going to go through. So it is a fantastic fight. What if the crossbow hadn't jammed?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting scenario, because still, crossbow bolts, just like war bows, long bows, even if they have very high poundage, if this is a heat-treated, high quality, and this guy's some kind of nobleman, it's not going to go through the breastplate. Most likely it's not going to go through. You might puncture it a little bit, depending again on the type of steel, the thickness of the area that you hit, because of course the thickness will vary. So if the crossbowman is a really good shot, I mean, he did hit a horse, but it was a large target, so we don't know how good of a shot he is. Remember that oftentimes crossbowmen were trained in 2 to 4 weeks and then set out. It's not like if it's a long bowman who is a freaking sniper, has been training since they were very young. We don't know if this guy is a good aim, but even if he was like one of those specialized crossbowmen, like Genoese crossbowmen, people that mercenaries, that was their job, they were professionals, so they were probably training a lot. Even in that case, if he shoots him in the center of mass, which is again the most likely target to be able to hit, because he's a moving target, of course, and he's fighting, and he also has to be careful with friendly fire, right? So if that's happening and he manages to hit anywhere in the back plate or breastplate in the front, not gonna go through. Maybe the visor, but again, it needs to be a really good shot.
Yeah, imagine if you hit him in the visor. It could go through, or it may not. Depends on a lot of factors, really. Morning Star.
There is a certain degree of danger for the plated knight when there is a crossbowman in the mix. But then again, it's not automatic. And remember that he could, let's say that he can take 2 shots. By the time he's reloading the third, the knight might be upon him.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I have 1 shot.
You think, well,
The knight will reach me. Definitely.
Sure.
And so I think at that point, the knight is going to take care of him very quickly.
If I try to reload, I'm not able to outrun him. He will catch me.
Yeah.
And this is not a game where you can run, load your crossbow, shoot at him, and run. That doesn't work in real life. Absolutely, it doesn't work. Because...
See, that's, I think, the difference between imagining a fight and actually trying it. It is... I mean, there are always those scenarios... I don't know why I turned off the light. There are always those scenarios where I may not be able to do it, you may not be able to do it, but maybe a medieval guy who actually did this for a job could. But not in this case, though. I think he's right. But I'm just saying, in general, whenever we do experimental archaeology and historical reenactment, we do have to take into consideration the fact that we are not medieval people. And, you know, he actually does more combat in armor than the average Joe, of course, because that's what he does. But still less than a real medieval person, most likely. Particularly if it's like a knight or someone who trains. And so it's interesting to always take into... I always like to consider the small chance that maybe something that we can't pull off. Like, for instance, I could never jump on a horse, but that's been documented in medieval France, if I remember correctly. Someone who could jump on a horse in full plate. It's one of those things. VE, what is the effect of denting armor in articulation points? Will it prevent the person from being able to bend the joint? If the guy in plate is unlucky enough and you can manage to bend, you could make it so that the arm gets stuck. Yeah, it could happen. Or the leg. It's unlikely, but yeah, it could happen. You grew up with horses, Timothy? Very cool.
I have to take all the stuff and run. That's not easy. I run with the same historical shoes that are at the same slippery. I only don't have the same amount of carry weight with me.
Right.
So I can run longer, but not faster. And who tells that the knight has to follow me?
Yeah, not to mention, we don't know if, imagine, once again, you're a crossbowman, but you are not someone who trained for years. The knight has trained since he was like a page and then a squire. So it's very probable that a knight is going to be more physical than you, more trained than you, which means that even in full plate, he may not be able to run as long as you do, but he may be faster. Picture that for a moment. You're a crossbowman with a breastplate, the knight is in full plate, but he's faster than you. It's absolutely plausible. Absolutely plausible. Here is how I'm going to prove that point. Take a breastplate and a helmet and a jacket and put them on me. Then take a full plate harness and put it on an athlete who is trained for years. He's gonna outrun me. Plate or no plate. Plate or no plate. Good morning, Belnick.
There is also the fear. There is also the possible lack of coordination. So they are all like they don't really know what to do. They're panicking. This guy is coming at them. One of them is already dead. The other one is being attacked. This guy panics. That is very important.
We tried to coordinate. We really tried hard to coordinate. But that's not that easy.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about it, you think, okay, we have to surround him. But that's actually dangerous. Because if you try to surround someone and also try to stay out of reach of his long polearm, you are spread far. So if the knight in the middle decides to go for one of these peasants with full speed, the other peasants have double the way to close in.
Very good point.
So it's much easier for the knight to take out one after one if you try to surround him. So you have to stay together first. And when the knight charges at one, you have to hope he will survive. What we unfortunately didn't. But if someone survives and can deflect a strike, the others have the option to go and surround him closer. Then it's a whole different
Man, this spearman is really going for it, isn't he?
story.
So he lost the polearm at one point. Then he has the mace. Even if he had a sword instead of the mace, anything that he has, even a dagger at that point, a rondella or misericordia, whatever it is, anything will be effective against them because they're not armored enough. As I was saying, he can't hit them in the head. Well, with the mace, he can still try and maybe stun them. But even if he can't hit them in the head with a sword, there is still so many viable targets for him, because we have to remember that when you're fighting on a medieval battlefield or in a situation like this, an ambush, you don't have to behead the enemy. You have to make them incapable to continue the fight. He's most likely going to run away. It's not like in video games where your enemies, they always fight until the death, like they're some kind of religious fanatics.
There's definitely truth behind it. But in my case, I was the last survivor, the crossbowman at the first, and then with the strike to my armpit, to my chest here in the side, I was the one who charged with the sword and get beaten to death last. My friends were still alive. They were hurt. They all get nasty strikes to their ribs. So they will die if no one helped them. But they were not dead in that moment.
In that moment, yeah.
So I thought, okay, I have this sword. I'm deadly injured. I'm the one who's already dead. Why should I run? He shows his back to me. So I have the option to take the sword and thrust it. And I nearly got him. So yes, I never thought about it. I'm not a fanatic, but...
like there's a fanatic. Hey, Tomichiko, good to have you here. Hello, Raf. Finally, I've caught you live. How are you? Very well, thank you. Absolutely, you're very welcome. It's good to have you here. That's very kind of you. It's a lovely message you wrote. You know, it's 8 a.m. and most of the people are already at work. Yeah, I know. I'll try to figure out a way to do different times for different streams. I'll figure things out.
Religious
Oh,
fact.
Francesco was asking, have you played Chivalry 2 yet? I have, yes, but not on the channel.
Fanatics, it's not fanatics. They're just gonna run away.
Yeah, after the first two were dead, the rest should have run.
And I really
Yes.
like how they. Oh my gosh, when he kept going like this.
I gotta admit though, it would have made for a funny video if the first two are dead, the other three just run away. But this made for a better video that they actually tried and the fight went on. Otherwise, it's already a 3 minutes and 16 seconds video. If they ran away, it would have been a 1 minute for 15 seconds video. Again, look at that. Boom. Boom.
He did try to stab, so that was a good last try. But already those 4 attacks, he
I was doing more than just stabbing him. I stabbed him a couple of times there. And when he's striking the first strike, I tried to parry it. But it doesn't help me. And he was hitting my chest plate.
Okay.
Because yes, the mace is hard rubber. Metatron will show it later. But it's still steel inside the rubber.
Oh, I
so
see.
It has weight.
Yeah, metal skeleton, and then you say rubber. Is it rubber or is it some kind of I don't know, nylon? I'll have to see. But regardless, yeah, I'm sure it's gonna hurt. I'm glad that the knight. So you're saying basically the knight purposely hit you on the breastplate so he wouldn't actually injure you. Makes sense. Imagine if he hit him on the teeth.
And it actually dented my breastplate.
Holy moly!
This is a non-hardened breastplate for the peasant, of course.
Yeah.
So it was caved in a little bit from these mace strikes.
Can you imagine that? Imagine what a steel mace would have done, or any metal for that matter. Like I've got 2 maces there downstairs, so I can't show you now. I might put them in when I edit the video, but I've got 2 maces. They're based on 12th century examples. And one is actually has a brass head and one has a bronze head. And then of course I have a mace that has a steel head. But all of these would I mean, if rubber did that, any metal, because it's a lump of metal. And so that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt.
I think he held back. Don't understand me wrong. But Niklas is a very strong board fighter. So he actually managed to cave this 1.5 millimeter steel plate.
1.5 is actually decent. It's pretty decent thickness, isn't it?
With a rubber mace.
But already those 4 attacks, he probably cracked his sternum, 3 ribs, and if he went for the face, which he probably didn't just out of safety, but he also went for the face of one of those, it would have just broken like 7 teeth, split the jaw apart. I mean, there is no recovery for something like that. You're out.
And the pull on
You're out.
thrust.
Awesome, awesome work, Dequitem. You really make me want to do something like that. I'll have to organize one of these. It's just, it's so, I mean, I was gonna say it's so cold, but this is cold. But you're German. I'm a Mediterranean guy.
It's fucking cold now. It's always cold here, or maybe often. So now I'm wet and fuck, it's cold. It's fucking cold. The video is not over. He will talk about my video a little bit more, a little bit, but I have to stop here. Now I have to save the cameras. I hope they're still filming in this weather.
Yeah, go get warm. Go get warm, man. All right, thank you. Thank you for the response video, Dequitem, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun to know that, you know, now we know things that we wouldn't have known, such as the breastplate caving in with freaking rubber. Could you imagine that? That's insane. That is insane. That was really fun. I actually enjoyed that.